It's Mike and Sean with Talking Tickets, and tonight we have the man, the myth, the legend, Darren Rovell. Darren, Sean, good to see you guys.
What's up? How we doing?
Pretty good. So, Darren, last time we saw you was at the National, so I wanted to get your opinions on what you thought of the show in itself and how things went at your table and dealing with tickets.
Well, I couldn't believe the overall crowd. I've been going to the National. This was my 9th straight, and I just the health of the crowd is unbelievable. The energy, the average age of the kid. There are things that happen there that I can't believe, and we always talk about this in the ticket world, just with the population of things. Like, I went back to my hotel, and these kids were trading like 5 and 6 figure Patrick Mahomes, and I'm like, I don't like. There's something in my mind which is like, I don't understand that. Now, I think all of us learned some business in the 80s doing some things, in the early 90s where we were kids, but like we literally were rich if we had $100 card.
Yeah.
We were carrying around a Jose Canseco 86 rated rookie. That was everything. These kids are carrying around these cases that have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cards. And so I always come away from the National, with a little bit of a wow, it's amazing, and also kind of a little bit of a sadness. Like, when I do my investing in food and beverage, I go to the fancy food show and I go through and I see that there are some of these people who have been surrounded by yes people, and they put all their 401k and their family money all into this idea, which actually is not that great to begin with, because there's a million people doing this. And so anyone can do what they want. But I come away with a frustration of some of the population of these cards, and that it still doesn't seem to make sense to me. And that's why I am, and you guys are, in the ticket world. Now, in previous years, and this is the 3rd year I set up for the show, I kind of, people would want to talk to me a little bit more than they'd want to look at my stuff. This year, I kind of tricked it up a little bit by just having some outrageous stuff among my tickets that make people stop. But I would say that in terms of the general interest in tickets, I think it was bigger than ever before. And I think just from anecdotally people stopping me, I sold 4 people their first ticket. And there was an incredible story, which I wish I told more than a tweet. It should have been, of this guy that was at the 2000 dunk contest, or the 99. It was the Vince Carter dunk contest, the 2000 dunk contest. And that he was a kid, and showed me where he was in the video and the picture. And he said, do you have a dunk ticket? And I just had one somewhere and was able to pull it. And it was just, it was amazing, because it was his first ticket. He was looking for it, and it gave him so much joy. And this is why we do what we do, because there's something about a ticket of I was there. There's something about I don't have a connection to it because I lost that ticket. And then, like, refusing it, kind of like a flux capacitor, I mean, it was amazing to see. So I think that was the most joy I had. And I'm there not necessarily to like make money. I'm there to tell stories and try to be, the ticket Johnny Appleseed.
Well, I think you do a great job of it. And I feel like people kind of identify you as kind of a ticket ambassador, because you have the huge following and you like to post about things. But yeah, I mean, I kind of saw the same thing. I think that guy actually came by my table and bought a few more things after.
Oh, wow, great, table. Amazing.
I think so. He's now into the ticket collecting brotherhood.
Did you notice a change in the curiosity?
Oh my gosh! Part of it was so many people came out, because I think the Booger Stubbs and I think the show helped a little bit, so people knew there was things going on. But there's also a lot of people on top of the core group that just coming up. Like I remember last national, I would sit for long stretches of time bored
Me too.
because people just weren't coming up to my table. But this year, man, I was talking to my buddies like I'm worn out. It was like
I
my
didn't have time to walk the floor, which is insane.
yeah, and I compared it to 2021 when my card guys were at their table and they were just slammed nonstop because that was like the peak card time. And I almost felt like, man, I'm as tired as you guys were in 2021 because it was just nonstop people coming up. I didn't have a break until about Saturday around noon or 2 o'clock. Thursday, Friday was just insane. Then after that is when it slowed down.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I think people people get it. I think they don't get the grades yet. Um, they don't understand that, but they just get the natural scarcity. And I think, more people in the card business have kind of been tricked into scarcity a little bit where like, oh, it's a one of one, but it's a one of one of as part of the rainbow. So there's really 26 of them. Whatever it is, there's 3 different colors of blue and 6 different colors of yellow.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's, just the appreciation that these things are so beautiful. The one thing I always do struggle with is I put out the great stuff, much of which I'm not selling, and I have a box of 1,800 others. And so next year I'm going to be committed to kind of figuring out how to do more of the Johnny Appleseed stuff by doing a box of here's $200 to $500 ticket, here's your starter ticket, and kind of really overtly encouraging people to get into it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because I had kind of the sub 400 box that people would flip through, and it's hard unless you have big money just walking up and dropping 2 or 3 grand on your first.
Especially if you haven't figured out you haven't figured out the thesis of it all, but it's always interesting what people stop at, like people always stop at the OJ Chase ticket. I'm kind of, I'd like to say that, a lot of me, I kind of pay attention to what people are paying attention to. I observe people, 2 years ago when I saw that the most popular thing people asked about was Walt Disney autographs, that led me to invest in Walt Disney autographs, 3x, because I just couldn't believe, people are stopping. And it just turns out that those autographs have 3x'd of a guy who's been dead for 50 years, 60 years. So I do think the National is great as a life study too, to see, what people are doing. Breaking is still another thing that is unreal to me, just to see how big the Whatnot Pavilion was, obviously where Fanatics Live is going. The energy around breaking is insane. As someone who covers gambling, I'm not surprised.
I know Sean has talked about this, for how things are cyclical in the hobby world. Sean, you can maybe explain a little more about how every generation it kind of booms for.
Yeah, we went through, all 3 of us are about the same age. We went through it in the 80s and 90s. We're going through it a generation later. If you go back a generation before the 80s and 90s, it's the 50s when baseball cards were booming then. Even if you go back a generation before that, it would have been the T206 era and baseball cards were booming then. I think that it's generational, and I think that it's going to kind of fade away, the card collecting, and then it'll come back in about 30 years. What do you think about that?
What do you think, Darren, about kind of the short term in the hobby world? And then, is it going to be like that in 5 or 10 years? Is the National going to be slowed down?
Well, I just, there's a couple things that need to be done. And I think the National is going to be dependent now. The National didn't sell the Fanatics. They could have. And Fanatics is, I think, potentially just going to blow them away. The National does some things that old businesses do, right? So they have the old guys up front, the guys who haven't changed their booth in 30 years, the guys who are selling 17 catcher's mitts from in between 1920 and 1940, and they're selling game used jerseys of Jose Aquindo. So, and those are the guys that lead in the auction, lead in the room. When you go in the room, it's like, and there's that feel is a little bit weird. So I think Fanatics could potentially kind of take the National down a little bit. So we'll have to see about that. But I don't see cards, continuing to go up. I think as a reporter, it's hard for, and I do think of myself as a reporter in the collectibles space. I love to do it. If you look at some of my stories, they get a lot of traffic because it's such a big industry. And so I love reporting on the collectible space. But if I, so 5 years ago or so, someone said to me, you're part of the collectible fraud industry. And I said, well, why is that? They go, well, because you automatically report that in an auction that something's sold and you don't know if it's sold. And you automatically report on eBay that it's sold for this. And so you're part of the fake information cycle that peddles this whole industry. And it didn't stop me, right? But I thought about it, right? I thought about, like, and although I don't think he does all good stuff, M&T Trading does the whole, like, oh, it's the same card that's come out, out of 4 times, it's the same card twice. It must have not have sold in the last auction. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about cards that people trust on their face. And data is not good data, and they're making decisions, judgments, and counting their money based on that. And I think that's very troublesome.
Yeah.
We talk about cards, and I saw you posted on, I guess we call it X now, but on Twitter about Type 1 photos. I mean, I want to get your thought, because tickets and Type 1 photos have kind of a unique correlation, especially like the big ones were the Jordan debut sold for 175,000. I kind of want to get your
So
opinion on.
so this is my take, because I've looked at it. So, to me, as someone who went into the VHS space, and I think the VHS space is not going to work out. There's too few people in it, and I don't know if it's moving. I have a couple problems with Type 1. Right now, the market does not make sense. Like, okay, so that's Nat Fine's Pulitzer Prize winning Babe Bows Out. Okay. But the market doesn't make sense in that it's basically Conlon 20s, 30s photos, and then like great photo. How could I get an incredible photo of a Type 1 incredible photo of Jackie Robinson sitting in the dugout or sitting in the locker room in 1949 reading a paper? And it's an incredible photo, and it's a Type 1, and it's slabbed, and I got it for $400. How does that make sense? And there's 3 or 4 guys, including Henry Yee, who runs the whole thing, who does PSA, they're determining what Type 1 is, and most people don't know what Type 1, 2, and 3 is. They don't know that you want maybe a Type 3 instead of a Type 2. And they don't know how to determine it. And so in game used and in tickets and in not in cards, because it's just, but in game used and in tickets, the arbitrage opportunity of knowing what something is and someone else not knowing is great. In the problem with photos is you have to have writing on the back. There's a lot of belief. Is it a Type 1? Is it a Type 3? Type 1 being from an original negative soon after, Type 3 being from original negative later. And so I've played around with RMY auctions where I look at great photos, and then I talk to people in the industry and I say, look, this is a great photo. I'm finally going to get my 1945 D-Day. I'm getting my Normandy picture. This is great. And they'd be like, yeah, it's a Type 3. And I'm like, wait, this has all the markings of Type 1. So one of the things that I learned in the VHS market is if there's only 4 or 5 guys who can really determine what something is, it's not a market. And I'm concerned that there's not enough people who know what a Type 1, 2, 3 is and can make the right calls. And it can only be PSA. And so that's my real concern with they're beautiful, but I just think there's way too much inconsistency. And if you have to go to a rabbi each time to ask, which is what I had to do in VHS, I had to go to a guy and say, hey, the double wrapping here, the seal, does the seal look good? Is the gatefold good? Right? If I had to go to one guy, everyone can't go to one guy. There needs to be something to figure out and something. And so I'm concerned that that market is, although people are taking shots at it, is not going to be a real market. Beautiful photos, but I think there's some issues.
Yeah. So you're saying that the experts aren't as big experts as
No, I
like
think the experts
many.
are. I think the experts are the experts. I think they're also making calls that make them the experts, and I think they're not enough experts.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
with tickets, on the other hand, I'm an expert, you're an expert. Anybody who looks at the date and can, just feel it, you can tell that it's legit. You don't have to send it into some
yeah, I
expert.
mean that's what makes that, for the most part, you can figure it out, and that
Yeah.
arbitrage exists. I think what's exciting about tickets, and I think what's also exciting about game use, which is on fire, is just the ability to have that arbitrage, to find something in a shoebox. And I found the two pre Miracle on Ice tickets that had never surfaced or graded by PSA in a shoebox, where a friend said, "Here, take these. It's 78 to 83." And that arbitrage exists in cards. The only arbitrage that exists is someone who's lazy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a liquid market, and you can
Right.
just check on eBay.
Right.
What about video games? You still dabble in that much?
No, I did in the beginning. I spent the most on the best graded NBA Jam, and I did sell it. I would still love to get a sealed Game Boy, a sealed Nintendo console. Got to come with Duck Hunt, not Super Mario Brothers. The last one was with Super Mario Brothers, and I'm like, what? No, it's got to come with the Duck Hunt and the gun. I don't want anything else. That's how I got it as a kid. But I'm very concerned about sealing, and I've said this for a while. I mean, I looked at iPhones 5 years back and talked to someone at Apple who had worked there for 25 years, and he's like, no one at Apple can tell you if it's an authentic seal. Literally on eBay
Yeah.
or on Amazon, you can buy like vintage wrapping. I mean, it's so simple, and actually have been surprised at the traction of iPhones, because now we're probably at 15 or 20 of the original iPhones, and it's still going, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that always seemed the whole sealed thing looked kind of something that could be tinkered with for sure.
Yes. Yes, especially if it's not a complex seal. Even, I mean, on VHS, I think there started to be watermark fraud. So, like, that, and then what is PSA going to hire a sealing expert then? I mean, then are we just talking about the seal? How do you know there are iPhones in here? It could be just a rock. So yeah, I mean, I love to like try to jump into new markets. I think what's happening with game used right now is wild. Why? Absolutely wild. The
Yeah, it seems
art.
like
Yeah.
everything has their moment, and it's just like, oh, can that moment be sustained? Like with tickets and VHS and video games. Game used, of course, has always been there, but yeah, the numbers
Well,
have
Mike,
been
I do think that the game used has not made a whole lot of sense relative to the mini piece on a card. I mean,
right.
come on. Like, the mini piece on a card and three logo mans of barely used jerseys go for 1.5 million. And LeBron wore it when he went to the toilet, but then changed out his jersey. I mean, that's ridiculous. Now, I do understand that size does count for things, right? So, like, the bigger something is, the less valuable it kind of becomes relatively, right? Because you can't
Yeah.
carry it around. And I actually think over time that's gotten more exacerbated, because people are just loving to hold handheld things and
Mhm.
talk about them and walk with them and all
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I mean, the jerseys make sense. Photo matching is interesting. And I think we're kind of getting close to there's, with the arbitrage comes the fraud. Hopefully in tickets there hasn't been much. How many fake tickets have you guys bought?
I don't know if I've ever bought a fake ticket.
Okay, you guys started earlier than me, but I bought the Hand of God ticket, which was slabbed in fake one
Yeah.
that was slabbed by PSA. I think the European tickets, all of a sudden, European soccer tickets. I don't have any problem saying this. There's definitely something wrong with the 1958 World Cup. There's literally hundreds
Yeah.
and hundreds of those tickets. If you look on the back, the ad is cut in the exact same place. Just doesn't make any sense. I think it's happened more with European soccer than anything else. But thank
Yeah.
God for the most part, it
You
appears
see
to.
those fake Jordan debuts coming from Europe too. I don't know if it's the
Yes,
same
I did
seller.
know. I did. Yeah, I did know of that too. Yeah, yeah.
I've purchased a fake Disco Demolition ticket. I know that.
I have as well. I have as well. Where the stamping,
The
you
stamp.
might have led me to it. Where
Yeah, that's right.
the
That's right.
stamping is the only thing that gives it the date, and it
Mhm.
was just stamped. I know White Sox tickets in general have been kind of screwed with. I think maybe there's been a fake Frank Thomas or a fake Jose Canseco 4040 or something like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's been pretty good, and I think
Well, we've talked about like the John Elway Drive ticket. Sometimes there's confusions in the markets, and then there's other weird anomalies like the Miracle on Ice. How there's so many fulls out there, and people are like, "Oh, will some come from the gift shop?" Or people have different random
Miracle.
stories.
The three ones are Miracle on Ice, Woodstock, and the 1966 Beatles at Shea. Those are the three that people kind of sort of want before they know it. Woodstock's still pretty cool, but obviously there's surprise that a full 10 goes for 700.
Yeah.
Miracle is very interesting. Like the Miracle selling for what did it sell for? SCP did what, like the whole team signed 7 tickets. Now, to me, it's like, what's the price of garbage besides the game, the 24, right? Like everything else is garbage.
Mhm.
But yeah, Miracle is also, and to me, some people don't care that much. Like, I don't have a Don Larson just because I think there's a lot of them. I don't
Right.
have a Cold Shot because I think there's a lot of them. Sometimes that, but again, obviously, as Hall of Stubs does so well on Instagram, these things just pale so much in comparison to cards that
Yeah.
it's kind of relative whether there's 150 or not. I mean, we're talking Miracle on Ice and Woodstock. We're talking 1,000 and 3,000. But yeah, I mean, that's what's so great about tickets.
So, do you know why there's so many, Darren? The Miracle on Ice? Did they sell them in the gift shop or something after?
I don't know if they sold them in the gift shop, but there were a ton made. It was the back of the ticket is sponsored by Sports Illustrated. I think that had something to do with it. I think Sports Illustrated had tickets,
Mm,
quantities of tickets. It wasn't, I think it's a little bit different than the 66 Shea, where Lennon said something about Jesus and people actually didn't show up. I don't it's not like in Lake Placid there were literally thousands of seats that were not there. I think they
yeah.
just
Yeah.
overprinted them. And
Yeah.
that, by the way, that's unlike Ollie Liston too, where people love the punch so much and they're like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it, I got one in every color, 1,000 all in. Well, yeah, there were 2,000 people there, and I remember I had confidence that the eBay ID, the guy was literally coming from Lewiston, Maine, but still.
Yeah.
This guy made a good post. We've talked about this a little bit. My biggest concerns with the Jordan debuts is there's still blank Ticketron paper stock out there, and I don't
Yeah,
know
that that
how.
that that that's interesting. Listen, are we coming to the point where PSA, to be confident, is going to have to do forensic and paper dating and stuff like that? I mean, I'm obviously really interested in this, in what RR has, the Lincoln tickets, the 2 Lincoln tickets.
Oh, I haven't
That
seen those. So what is the R
so it
auction? What are
so
the
so
Lincoln?
RR has the, right now I'm bidding. I'm in the bidding, but I'll share it with you.
You're
It's
gonna hype it up and
no, no, no,
everything's
no.
going well.
So listen, Malcolm Forbes bought it in 1992 for $83,600. It's 2 tickets. It's in this. If you're looking for it, Mike, it's the September 24th auction. It's probably lot number 8 or 9. It's 2 tickets to the night
Okay.
that Lincoln was shot. Now, it comes down to the stamping, and it sure looks like it says April 14th, 1865. The difference now is that the provenance so it comes there. There's a little slip that says these are the tickets. It looks like it was written in a fountain pen. Who
Mhm.
knows when that was written?
Yeah.
And who knows how long that stamp existed at Ford's Theater? Because what a lot of people don't give credit for was even at that time. There they are. Holy smokes! It's at 30 now.
Just happened. As soon as you brought it up, it went up.
Last night it was at 14. So so that stamp, I don't know if you can pull in a little bit more, but it's that stamp in between. Um, yeah, it's very, very light. So, is PSA going to be able to do anything with that? There are other tickets. There it is. See, it looks like, looks like April 14th, 1865. But then if you look at both tickets, pull both tickets out. Let me see both of them together, Mike.
The previous photo.
Yeah, the previous photo.
Can you hear us, Mike?
I can't hear you now. Okay. All right. So the question is, why are the D's written differently? That bothers me. So look at the 2D. So section D and then 41 or whatever.
Wow,
why are those D's written differently? That bothers me.
Yeah.
Right. And so are we in an era, and I'd like to open this up to you guys, are we in an era where PSA has to slab these, or we're not comfortable at a price? Right now, $30,000 is okay. I might buy it at $33,000 if PSA is not going to slab it, but not at 50, not at 60. No. So the question is, I'd love to be a storyteller. I'd love people to come into my lair and for me to say, these are, holy crap, you are the GOAT, man. You have these, but do you have the Lincoln ticket? Yes, I do. But at what price without the PSA stamp of approval?
Yeah.
I think we're at 30,000 and 36,000 with BP. I think we're getting to the point where it's like, I don't know.
I think that's a really, really good point, and it has to do with to what extent does PSA add value? And another great example of this that just sold was that World Series, that first World Series ticket. That PSA won't slab those because there's no absolute certainty that that's a ticket to the first World Series.
So someone believed that it was enough to pay $500,000, right?
What was it? A $250,000. Yeah.
$250,000.
Which is that I think that most ticket collectors wouldn't. I think that it goes to a collector of something of ephemera or just Americana that would be interested in something like that. So it's a different.
That's one of those tickets. When I go ham on things, that's one of those tickets where I'm like, the first World's like Larry David, like the first World Series game. Who cares? What happened there? Who Honus Wagner? Who played the game? It doesn't.
What was it that you said? You said you'd rather have a Bo runs over Bosworth.
Yes, yeah. I mean, sometimes I go hyper. I'm expert at that, but that thing. Yeah.
Well, I think that this is the exact same thing that you're talking about. PSA won't grade this because who knows? PSA, I don't know. Have you talked to PSA about the?
I have. I haven't. I know Mike listens to this, so I didn't have any conversations with him on the record that I feel like I could share. There's nothing that I know that gives me any sort of advantage here. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I think we just had a conversation. He knows it's out there. And I don't think he's come to any conclusion whether he slab it or not. It is definitely as inconclusive as it would seem. But again, how much do you need? How much do you need, and how much? And I'm just saying, for my own bankroll, it's kind of at the point where I need to know. I think it's cool. It's really cool at like $36,000. At 50, 70, 80, I got to have it slabbed.
Yeah, or examined by experts that go well beyond what PSA knows as far as like paper age and whatever the stamping is on it. There's experts out there, I'm sure, that could give you a better idea.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, I'm
Very,
with you.
very interesting, very interesting though, because I think that's one of those tickets that I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you've been talking about that one for quite a while. That's definitely, if those are real, that's got to be up there as the great tickets.
What a piece. And by the way,
Yeah.
if you look at the seating chart of the Ford Theater back then, the person would literally be right across. So like you could, I don't want to get morbid here, but you probably had a better view of the shooting and Miss Lincoln and Mr. Lincoln than My American Cousin, which I don't really know how good that play is. I've never read it. It's forever destroyed by one event. Poor writer of My American Cousin.
It's also the writing. I agree with you on that. The D's are different, so that would be a concern.
You would think the same person, and then the 41, 42 are the same. So you'd think that would be a different person. That does bother me.
But I wonder.
And again, can I say one more thing, Sean? Listen, I think a lot of people lose when they start saying, "Well, this wasn't collectible that back then." I mean, there were, my John Hancock lottery ticket was from. There was a letter from 1862 of this woman, Winthrop G. Ray, who was an autograph collector. So there's been a lot of Lincoln fakes that have come out that have happened in the 1910s that still look really old.
Sure.
But I would say don't immediately dismiss that because it looks relatively old, that it was a time when there was no fraud.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's true even in more recent times. People assume that this wasn't going on in the 70s or 60s or 50s when the fakes were absolutely going on then in all different genres of collectible. So for sure.
By the way, I did call the Jackie debut pretty much right on the nose where I thought it would land in today's
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So I have it pulled up here. So you thought I'd go for 300. I guess one, did you bid on it? And two, do you know?
I actually said it would go. I said it would go for 350 all in. Had a bet with Mr. Mater about where it would go. I think he thought it would go higher. I did not bid on. Listen, I missed my chance. The one that, I don't know if one of you has the one that's in Hunt, but that's the one I missed and didn't go high enough at the time and didn't like that it was an as is frame or whatever. I think I'm forever out of the Jackie, and it is one of the debuts that I would like, but I don't right now. I feel like I wouldn't get enough joy out of it for that price.
Yeah.
Do you ever have random non-ticket collectors hit you up with money and say, "Hey, I'm interested in getting into this hobby. You're the guy I want to talk to"?
So that's a really interesting question. So I've helped people in the past, and it's kind of become a little side business, not memorialized in any way. I don't have a name. I don't have a business card, but there are guys that say, "Hey, I got $1 million. How should I spread it out?" And I always go back to telling the people, it's like, well, what gives you joy? If someone says it gives me joy when, I guess the only way to put it is like when I can pull my dick out, then the person wants to buy a dinosaur, right? I mean, that's what it is. And so I have done this several times, and it's kind of, again, like a side thing where someone says, I have this much money, where should I put it? I obviously feel some responsibility and try to do some private deals. So say behind the scenes, hey, I know you have this. What do you, so that the person's not dealing with auction prices
Mhm.
and I mean, again, that I see myself as a steward there. I like people to get into the industry.
Yeah.
I always say, like, when I'm at the National, I'm Darren Rovell. I'm not hidden behind my eBay ID. If I'm hidden behind my eBay ID, I can play some games and take advantage and play the game. But if I'm Darren Rovell, I can't. And so that's really the same thing here, where, like, I feel like I can really help people, and I want and it still goes back to me. I'm helping them, build a collection, but I always ask them, I just want to make sure, if you're in it for money, let's talk about it. If you're in it for, like, people don't know. They go, "Hey, I just want to get $1 million worth of shit," and I go, I can't really help you there. Like, what do you want? What do you really want? And I've put some tickets in people's hands because I really do believe in it. I've sold so little of my overall collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always kind of see you as a guy who kind of is more in. Sometimes we have questions like, "Hey, what are these executives thinking?" And we always like, "Well, now that we have you on, do you ever talk to any executives in the sports world about, the future of tickets?" We all assume it's always digital. It's going to be digital, but some kind of ability to get a printout instead of the whole "I have a broken phone" trick. Do they ever? Have
I've
you ever?
I, I've been working on that. I can tell you. The Cubs have been very responsive. I recently got an NHL team to talk to Matt Fuller, uh, because what happens is the teams say, "Oh, how about we do this? We're finally going to give fans what they want. It's going to be a commemorative ticket with no
Yeah.
seat and no
Yeah.
row." And
Exactly.
and
Every
and
time.
it's like, guys, if you're going to go to the collectability of it, you have to figure out whether it's collectible. And
Yeah.
so for me, I need to tell teams, hey, really, the only way to do this where you're getting off scot free, and this is definitely going to work out, is you have to print the sheet before the whole season. So you got to print the whole sheet before the whole season. Give them whatever it is, and give them if they have to pay $300, $500, whatever it is, that will definitely assure it. Now,
Yeah.
will PSA say, hey, if you scan the digital ticket and there's a machine, because there are these things, there's a machine, and then it comes out with your seat, your row, then PSA is going to have to talk about whether that seat got you into the game or if that itself is commemorative, right? So
Mhm.
these are all these issues, but I try to get teams to understand it. I try to tell them the issue. I always show them, hey, even if it's not a no hitter, there are every
Oh, yeah.
game, every game, there's a kid who's going to his first baseball game. I mean, so you got to try to do these things. And I think, there's a lot of people who are complaining about, even Aaron Rodgers' first game at MetLife as the Jets quarterback, or Lionel Messi, seeing
Yeah.
Lionel Messi. We need the tickets. I think it hurts ticket collectors that there aren't tickets going forward, because I do think it just makes ticket collectors older by nature. And I also feel a responsibility to try, with knowing the team executives in what I do for my job, to try to get them to effectively change this, but that most of them don't understand all the rules that come along with
Right.
it.
Right. And they're very specific because it has to be that only one ticket per seat can be printed, period, per
Correct.
game. You can't have the ability to go in and dictate your own seating assignment, which
Correct.
most teams allow you to do when they do these commemoratives. So it just makes it basically trash.
Yeah,
And they
I'm hopeful this will happen sometime soon.
Well, it
yeah.
seems like there's also a big financial gain they could have for certain events like the Spurs. I wonder how many people who would want to buy their ticket to Wembanyama's first game when they play, Super Bowl tickets. Of course, any monster historical game that something big happens. I feel like there's just
The
a
funny
not a-
the funny thing is that, the Rangers did sell the Judge tickets, and now the Judge tickets is 30 bucks. The
Yeah.
Wembanyama, the Summer League, they did sell them. And, so I'm kind of wondering, even if they did something like that, is the modern market, in the moment, not like I paid $7.50 for that first Judge that came out. And now, you can get him for $30. The only modern ticket I paid for that I think really is a good one, and I haven't seen a lot of, is that the World Series no hitter. Where's the Phillies ticket, where that's there was only a couple, which is, by the way, pretty embarrassing that the perfect game, right? And pretty embarrassing that the perfect game in 1956 has 150, and there's like 3 of the ones from 2022.
Yeah. Well, what would you think about having a kiosk in stadiums, or the ability to go on the app and print your own ticket and have it sent? It would be commemorative. It wouldn't get you in, but at least it would solve the collectability of it, and you would have.
Well, I think PSA is doing commemorative tickets, right? They will write commemorative,
because I think that's they understand that that's where it's moving, and that it's probably.
But I don't think that's great for collecting. Hey, I would love a co-sponsored machine between the team and PSA.
Yeah.
Where they make it right, and they give you half off to go ahead and slab it. Like, let's go, guys. Let's get people to start ticket collecting. By you do so much as a team to do cards, where you do team sets, you do deals with tops individually. Like, let's do something for tickets.
Yeah, and teams just have to understand that they have this exclusive collectible set that they could offer to season ticket holders as added value, and it would be their something.
And even just say, hey, it costs us $300 to print. It costs you $300. Like, we're not making money off it. Right. This is something we give you, like 10% off food. This is an added value.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess they are so hesitant. I guess they want the data and afraid that somebody will have a
They
hard
get the
ticket.
data. They get the data digitally. Like, they get the data already. It's already digital. I got it. They're learning more about fans than ever before. Okay, learn more again. Do it just like, get the people's phone numbers again. Hey, if you scan it, it's like those machines where you do your selfie. You got to put your phone number again. You got to put something else in, whatever.
And why can't it be on the outside of the stadium, and you can go in with your phone, or you can get it one printed and go in with
I always thought how, I look at Hank Aaron in 1974, hitting his home run, 715, and that there were certificates at the game that people could get. I think it's embarrassing that there aren't printers and things, that a kid goes to a game and they went to Aaron Judge's 3 home run game, and that the Yankees don't have someone photoshopping up something quickly and say, I was at Aaron Judge's, and just print it on site. It costs nothing. There'll be no waste. Like, I'm surprised we're in 2023 and immediate collectibles that commemorate games aren't available for sale at the ballpark before you leave.
Yeah.
Like, the craziest one was when American Pharoah won the Triple Crown. I was like, I've been in here 40 minutes since they've won the Triple Crown. It's 2016. Like, there's got to be some hats when I'm leaving saying Triple Crown winner. Has to. We're in a new era here.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to ask you about, the Fanatics whole taking over the industry, and of course how you can't get tickets autoed, and a lot of these other groups like Fitterman. Kind of your thoughts and how you see that going forward.
The idea that I don't love the can't get tickets autoed. I think that no fans, if you're doing a deal, should ever be can't. I do understand the process of wanting a piece of the pie, right? And tickets have gone up, and I've played these games, right? Like, if you get Koufax on a ticket, maybe it's $200 or $300 more. The biggest game I ever played was, I have shot sheets from Rocky II, and Sylvester Stallone is $999, and his agent said to me, well, this is going to be $2,999. And I'm like, why? He's like, well, because I know how good this is. This is a unique shot sheet. It's real, and you're going to be able to slab these and sell these for $10,000. I got a deal, but I couldn't deny it. I don't begrudge these guys. If you're going to pay Tom Brady $2 million a year I understand it. You have to cut off some of the the delta that exists in the arbitrage. But on the no one signing tickets, I don't believe that. I don't believe.
And that's what
Sometimes,
I've
in fact, other than like, I'd rather not have Pete Rose sign 4192. Like, there's guys that have signed so much, actually, where I don't think the default is always to get it signed. I know, Howard, you think that, but sorry, I might as well, lob some shots while I know who's listening to this.
it just seems like it's not. Just have like a price.
This guy,
I don't understand why they don't go that route.
Doesn't make any sense. Really doesn't make any sense.
I feel like
but I do think there's a question when a guy signs a lot, like Tyson. I mean, sure, you want him on the bite ticket, but like on other things, it's like sometimes I think the beauty of the ticket speaks to itself, and sometimes I've come to be upset with things that are signed, that it's not an automatic.
Oh yeah, sometimes it ruins it,
yes,
especially if they have a terrible signature.
I agree.
And now with all the new guys, they sign so much, their autographs are just trash.
Well, it's like the Allen Iverson ticket. Like, I have a bunch of the debuts. I would never have Allen Iverson sign that ticket ever.
Just not a good spot for an AI auto, or is his autograph just crap?
It's just so good, and if he's gonna sign over it's the only ticket where it has the guy's whole face for his debut. Like, I don't want him to sign it on his face. That's a time capsule.
So Darren, how have you talked about PSA a little bit? Have you used Beckett
I have.
Yep. How do you compare and contrast the two?
I love the fact that you could, I'm not always around to tell a story. So the fact that someone could tell a story on a flip is great. Yeah. I think they've done a really good job. I've had things that have sat in bins for 3 years that, that they wouldn't do because of the size, because of other things. I love the personalization thing. I think that's great. I think they've done a pretty good job. And, at $30 and a 45-day turnaround, I think the business is going to places where people are looking for, oh, this is the Johnny Kilroy game, or cute things. That's where there's a lot of evolution. And, if you do the 1955 Biff game from Back to the Future 2, to actually have the line that Biff says on the flip is really cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long, I don't know how their business is doing, but I will say that I will automatically give tickets to Beckett that are kind of play around tickets that aren't maybe worth that much, but are but are interesting, and it makes sense to write the story. Or if it's a size issue, I just think like the JFK Maryland ticket just looks better in a Beckett slab than a PSA slab. I think they've done a pretty good job at challenging, though I know their volume is nothing close. The ticket world, we don't have so many tickets that are the same. So we can barely say, oh, in a Beckett slab, it's this, and in a PSA slab is this. That's why we're in tickets. There's virtually no comps. Yeah. So we really haven't had a whole bunch of data on it, but I think Beckett's done a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that even raw tickets sell for pretty close to what slabbed ones do. So why wouldn't Beckett be pretty consistent with PSA as far as pricing goes?
Right.
I haven't seen anything on that. I like the way that they look, and I think so. You're saying that if it's high value, you're still. If
it's high value, I'm going to think about it a little bit more. I think I'm going to think about it a little bit more. Not unless it, it tells a story, and if the story is a little bit more complicated. The Stallback ticket, the 1963 Army Navy game, where you really have to write, game rescheduled a week because of Kennedy's assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Staubach, Heisman Trophy winner, signed. So sometimes it, how much do I have to tell the story, and then be able to pass it on? That actually has some selling value, right? Yeah. Like the idea that I'm not there to push a button and, push a button here. This is from the Rovell collection, and now Darren will tell you this story, right? Like, doesn't happen. So there is actual value in taking away the story with you in entirety.
Yeah.
So we got a couple questions. Andrew, Mr. Michael Jordan collector, says, question for the group: do you think demand for tickets is growing faster than the populations of key tickets being found and graded?
Trick question. Or is the pop growing faster than the demand and driving down values? I've actually been surprised how many Jordan debuts have come out. I would have said there would have been 12 to 15. I think, what are we at? 40, 45 now, maybe?
More than that.
What are we at now?
It's over
60.
50.
Count them all.
See, that's very surprising to me.
Yeah.
I think so. That's a ticket where I just think there have been more than I had calculated. But I think like that then makes me focus on it. Like, I just can't believe the population of the Babe called shot. You know, I don't know if there's more, but it's 140, 150. So I do think there's definitely a lull right now in the market. And I think the biggest lull is in the fun $600 to $2,000 tickets. I think for some reason, the things that sold there, like, they might not even get a bid now. And that's a little concerning to me, because I think that's what makes tickets that the OJ Simpson ticket, which, you know, used to be an $1,100 ticket, you can now get for 500 slabbed. You know, I just think some of the fun is out of it. And I thought the debuts would come down in general. I thought that not so much that the debut didn't mean anything, but that really the debuts gravitated to the card people, and the card people are flippers. And so it's all about the population of people who are collecting it, and or flipping it and dealing with it. And I think that's what led to some of the drops in the debuts. But who knows? All I could say is that I still have a lot more confidence in tickets over cards. The cards don't make sense to me. The tickets do. Even if a ticket price here and there doesn't make sense, either too cheap or too expensive, the overall idea of tickets and scarcity, just to me, I'm not selling my collection and you know, love them every time I tell a story.
Yeah.
Well, I know I posted about this, and I want to get your percentages what percent of ticket collectors are there to collect, and what percent of card collectors are true collectors?
I think ticket collectors there to collect are like 75%. And I think card collectors, the number is probably closer to 30 or 25%.
Yeah. That's when you're saying card collectors, you're including modern. If you just look at vintage card collectors, then you're probably a little
bit higher. Yeah. But I'm talking about in totality, everyone that showed up at the National.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Again, tickets provide less liquidity, but then also provide, you know, a good arbitrage, because then, you know, what is it worth? I don't know. The last time it sold was 3 years ago, or it's not sold in this.
Yeah.
I don't love grades in general. But I do go with it, because if I do sell things eventually, you know, that's forced me to get some grades, like redoing my 1919 World Series.
Yeah. What did you get? A 2?
A 2.
Yeah. And that's good. That's
one off the top, you know, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
Well, you know, I've noticed that Beckett, especially on vintage older tickets, definitely give higher grades than PSA. But then it's like, well, do you want Beckett to grade your older tickets?
It depends. I mean, I think the bigger slabs potentially, like maybe even the Thrilla in Manila, like the Beckett has those good slabs there. But I still think that people expect it to be in a PSA case. Then again, at the National, if you want a Thrilla in Manila ticket, you'll see 1 or 2. So you're never going to be in the position where you're really going to have to choose on the great tickets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Darren, what is your opinion of the movie ticket market, both basic US stubs and the Japanese versions?
The Japanese version, there's a dime a dozen. They're really cool, but I'm concerned at how many there are. I haven't bought one of them. Unfortunately, the US movie stubs are gross. They're ridiculous. They're horrible. But guess what? they were what they were. And You know, the only time I don't collect something that I really like is when they spell the name of a movie wrong, which happens more than you think.
Mhm.
Forrest Gump, Forest Gump, many
Yeah.
of those. I have about 125 movie tickets.
Oh, really?
I do enjoy them. I try to collect the ones that are impossible, like 84, 85, Karate Kid 2, Police Academy 2,
The
those ones that are really
classics.
Well,
difficult.
this is something I don't know anything about. Is the Chase movie ticket? Are you looking for the opening weekend, or are you looking for the
So
premiere?
opening weekend if you can get it. But
Yeah.
you can't be choosers. Like, on some of these, especially when you get back to 85, 86, or 88, you see Bull Durham. Okay, guys, stop fighting, please. 9-year-old twin boys. But you can't be choosing if you're going to get a major league or a Bull Durham because they are so very rare. But if you can get a premiere, or I got a premiere of Spaceballs that was big for me. And it had on the back of it, they were giving away all these things from 87. So it was like a Sony Discman, and like,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, that's the type of stuff that as ticket
Yeah.
collectors on the back, we like to see that type of stuff that kind of gets frozen in time. So I don't know where those will go. I think they're really cool. I think concert tickets are really going to move. I mean, you can imagine if you're a fish fan, I could bring fish slab tickets to a concert and set up a table, and I could sell them all for $300 each, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like a big fan of concerts. I collect last concerts, but I've kind of been more interested in the movie tickets, especially the premieres, the ones that look cool. I think there definitely is a market for like Darren was saying, the opening weekends. But yeah, the Japanese are really cool. But like I said,
The movie tickets, like regular tickets, they pull a heartstring. Like, I remember when I was touching a girl on her jeans for the first time, sitting next to me,
going.
so.
So, Darren, do you really think that they're rare, or that they just haven't?
Very, very, very rare. Like 82, 83, 84, 85. Very rare.
I feel like there's probably a lot of these that are just sitting in drawers and places, and that people had kept for that sentimental
You
reason,
would
but
you
they
would
don't.
you would think a lot of them, having studied the market, are affixed to poster board,
Yeah.
are affixed to scrap pages, to other things. So yes, people collect movie tickets, probably thought about it more and held it more than they did for sports tickets, but
Mhm.
there's not a lot of them. Now, once you get to 95, 96, 97, that changes. There's a ton.
Mm.
There's thousands of Titanic tickets. Because unlike a sporting event, literally the event happened every night and it was the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, when you see a Home Alone, that's where I draw the line. I think after 95, it gets, and because my heart is stuck in 85, 86, 87, 88. Like, if I see something go down in there, if I see a Good Morning Vietnam premiere, as I just did, I'm going to take it home.
Awesome.
You can get Sean collecting movie tickets like he collects Jackie 47s after this show.
Yeah. I don't think that's something I'm going to be getting into, or at least not public about.
Well, Darren, I appreciate you coming on. If anybody has any questions, you better fire them off fast.
Or DM me on Instagram. I'll always. I love this business. I love you guys. I love everything you do for the business. Man, this is fun. Everything we do is fun, and it's really good to be part of this community. I think we all kind of like each other, and protect I think everyone protects each other, has everyone's best interest, even though we
Yeah.
duel over what matters and what doesn't. I think it's real sweet that we can see each other at the national, and I think we all have the goal of growing this great game of ticket collecting.
Yeah. Next year we plan on having another meetup, and you'll have to plan on joining.
Let's get the ticket convention. Maybe not use the word national. Okay, maybe not the smartest thing, but
maybe should have got you to consult him on that one.
yeah, maybe not use the national, and maybe not hold it 3 inches from the real show. Maybe we should go to other places, but I who knows? I do think there could be an offshoot, but we got to respect the national, and maybe Fanatics has some sort of mini ticket area. It's got to be organized differently. It can't. You're running through the halls. It cannot be like, oh, why is that guy in between the breakers? Well, he had that table in 1979 and he asked for it for 50 straight years. That doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about doing a trade night. Of course, we'll do another meetup, but I think that would.
I'm game. I'm in.
I'm actually going to be going to the Burbank show. I don't know if you know anything about that. It's in Anaheim.
I'm not going to be there, but I do like having a ticket representative everywhere.
Yeah, so it's kind of my first West Coast show, and I'm really curious to see how it compares to the Dallas show I go to every other month. And of course, I know it's not going to be anything like the national.
Definitely tell us on Insta what it's like for sure.
Yeah, for sure, we'll do.
Mike, Sean, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Darren. Really appreciate it.
Darren.
You got it. Until next time, take care.
All right, next time.